basis. So there are three different aspects of apports that we can talk about. But I think we'll concentrate on the apport object first.
Yes, that's the fun one.
That's the
And
fun one.
yeah, that's the one I have a lot of reader and viewer input. And so we'll be actually, this show is going to be a little bit different than anything I've ever done because Lynda and I, you and I, will be reading out some letters with actual real life experiences. So the thing that I find with, well, I call them ghostly gifts, like the objects, because they are things that kind of drop into your lap or drop onto your carpet, or you find in your car that has no reason to be there.
Exactly.
And in most cases, every possibility, like realistic possibility, 3D world explanation can be ruled out for how this object appeared, why it appeared, so on and so forth. Now, I call them ghostly gifts, or I also call it ghostly hijinks, because sometimes it's like a real tease and things will appear, disappear, translocate, um, disappear for years and show up. So, it begs the question, how? How do they do this? Why do they do this?
Right. Right. Well, there's a
That's
couple of
yes.
things that this book says that kind of addresses those. And it's very interesting because it does say that an apport object is any living or inert thing that appears from the air without or with the will of the psychic or medium. Interesting, right?
Yes, yeah.
Object can be jewelry, a stone, a gem, an arrowhead, a flower, a fruit, a bird, a mouse, etc. And it appears spontaneously in the close vicinity of the person while they're
Mm,
conscious but unaware of the happening. So pennies falling in front of them without any physical means, and they appear in one's path, noticed as if it's out of one's element, has significance to the finder. That's really interesting too, right? And it does say that these items can also appear in a seance room, which was one of my experiences way back when. But they talk about dematerialization and rematerialization. And they do
mm.
say that it's a vibrational frequency that causes these things to apport. Kind of interesting, no?
I'm very fascinated by that because that makes sense. It's a
Right.
vibrational frequency. Now, do you have to understand like quantum physics for this, or
It,
I don't know because I don't.
well, it's really interesting. It does say that, now where was it here? It does say, um, okay. Yeah, that it the person who sometimes can allow this to happen, so the psychic medium, or they call them an alchemist at one
Hmm,
point in this,
hmm, hmm.
they say that they allow the etheric world to change vibrational frequency, okay, to transport the item to another location. And then it says they change that vibrational frequency to its original form once they're in that location. So they change it and then they change it again. I think that's kind of interesting.
That is a really good theory,
I think so too.
in my opinion. A
I think so
really
too.
good theory.
Yeah.
Um, I cannot describe to you the number of outport experiences I've had, and that's what always puzzles me naturally. How? How? So that is really, really cool. Tell me about tell me about your experience that you told me a few years ago, quite a few years ago, about the watch.
Well, it's weird because I was looking through all my notes after we spoke, and I vaguely remembered that experience. I could not find my notes, but when I kind of scanned my brain, I do remember sitting, I believe it was on my bed, and then all of a sudden, this thing fell on my bed, and I thought, "Oh my god, what is it? Is it a bat? What can it be?" And I
Right.
mean, that's always been my biggest fear, that something is gonna come plopping on my bed that's, like, of a physical nature, like a mouse or a bat or something scary like that, that's, yeah, unexpected. But it happened to be like a pocket watch, and it was an old pocket watch, and I remember thinking, "How can this be? Like, where did this come from? I never had it, I'd never seen it before," and I wondered at the time, like, "Okay, is somebody trying to tell me something?" Because I
Mhm,
think in most cases, when it's something like that, that there is sort of, there is a reason that it kind of drops from thin air or seeming thin air. There's a
mhm,
message or there's something, that you're supposed to take notice of, kind of like ghosts and spirits, right? Where people
mhm.
go, "Well, I don't know why it's here." Well, sometimes they just want you to notice them. So maybe
Right.
that's part of the equation when it comes to apports, because I think, well, okay, so there's a reason why. Why did this happen? So,
Yes, definitely. I think that's a crucial part of trying to figure things out is to look at the symbolism of whatever the apport is. Does it is it some kind of spiritual guidance? Is it like some kind of wake up call? Is it something that you know they are trying to bring to your attention for a specific reason or not? Um,
right.
Sometimes I think is random, but again, we don't know. We don't know what they're trying to say. It's a big language barrier, I think, between us
Yeah, it's true.
and
There's
the
like
other side, right? So,
this spiritual language barrier. And I remember, because this is my brain, right, at the time. And I remember thinking that if it was something that I was supposed to know, then, and this is my humor. Okay, so it's a pocket watch. So it's time to do something,
time. Right,
right?
right.
And I laughed about it, but in retrospect, the time when it happened, right? The time in my life,
Mhm.
I think was very significant. It's like, get up. It's time to do something.
Right, definitely. The other thing too, though, it might have been tying into, in my opinion, because it was an old-fashioned pocket watch, could be to possibly past life stuff coming forward, possibly an ancestor, um, knocking on your door. I think there's many layers of it too, if you really want to examine it. But yes, obviously, pocket watch is time and timekeeping.
Yeah.
So, as a matter of fact, one of the stories we're going to read out today is talks about that. So, I'm fascinated that you brought that up. I'll never forget when you told me that story. I just found it like wow. So,
Right.
yeah, I so the reason I love to talk about apports too is I've had so many of them, and I do have another video on my channel that describes a whole lot of the experiences I've had with clothing. So I get clothing gifted to me nonstop. It has started, the clothing stuff started in a long time ago, 20 years ago almost. And it was crazy for years and years. And now it's slowed down, but I still get random bits of clothing found in my closet, in my laundry, um, that kind of thing. Um, but lately too, I've also had poltergeist activity.
Really?
The last, yeah, on and off. And I'm just wondering too, and this is something I want to do more research on too, is how related are apports to poltergeist activity because obviously if a ghost or spirit or something can move things and relocate things in your house or knock things over or knock things off walls or that kind of thing, that kind of ties into their ability maybe to bring you objects. Because there's got to be some kind of like, how does a spirit get physical?
Well, right, exactly.
Yeah,
How can they
yeah.
sort of reach through the ether to either
Mhm.
gift you things, make things move, touch you? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and take things away. Yeah.
Take things
So
away. Oh, God.
it's totally fascinating subject, and and I find too that, and again, when we get to the letters soon, you'll find that a lot of people who've had these kind of experiences, first of all, they don't know what they are, and secondly, they sometimes hesitant to talk about it because it's so mysterious and mystical and bizarre
Yes.
that people
It's
kind
scary.
of hold back on it. It's scary.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
they don't wanna tell people because they figure, well, people are gonna think, "Well,
I
loser,"
know. Do we need to up your meds right now or
right? Have a
yeah.
drink. Have a drink.
Okay. I'm I'm gonna pause for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get to the fun stuff. So, sorry everybody, we're going to be reading off notes and cell phones and so on. We're going to be reading some Apport experiences that people have sent in to us. And I think this is going to be fun. It might be a little sloppy to look at on the screen. Sorry about that. But anyway, let's dive in. So, first letter. Hello to all. Several years ago, while writing to a former foster child who was in prison, I wished that I could locate a card that had Bible references for times when you're depressed, lonely, etc., as he was participating in Bible study. The problem is that I'm a collector of many things and hadn't seen the card for quite some time and didn't know where I had put it or if I had given it away to someone. I figured it would be easier to buy another one instead of trying to locate the one I had, if indeed I still had it. Putting it out of my mind, later that day, as I was walking through my kitchen, I noticed something white that I thought was a receipt that must have fallen on the floor from the table under a chair. When I picked it up and turned it over, it was the Bible reference card. I stood there in shock. I had not looked for the card because I considered it a futile attempt and had passed that spot back and forth all day and had not seen anything. Had the card been face up, I would not have noticed it because it would have blended in with my floor colors. Also, I have 6 dogs and would have chewed it to shreds had they seen it. My house is small, so there was no way they would miss it. I mailed it to my foster son and told him what happened and addressed it to him from God. I didn't know they had a word that described this kind of thing happening. To me, it was a miracle. Thanks for keeping us informed. Blessings, BB.
Wow.
So again, something that you have no idea where it is. You haven't seen it for eons, and for it to show up right side up underneath the foot of the chair, it's,
I
yeah,
love it.
pretty cool.
Yes.
So
But it
yes, but
yeah.
the name for that is Apport.
Apport, yeah. And you
Yeah.
know what? When I was growing up, when we couldn't find something, because I grew up Roman Catholic, right? My parents would say,
Mhm.
"Just ask Saint Anthony to find it for you," right?
That's my favorite. Yeah.
Right? And it's so weird how I always, like 90% of the time, I would find it. And now I'm thinking about it and it's like, well, you asked for it. Could it have been St. Anthony? Or maybe, like they say, if you have an intention and you say it, you make it concrete. And if you send it out to the universe, then there it is, right? and apport.
Speak the words. Yes, yes, I agree with that. Do you know that that quick little prayer to Saint Anthony where you it's really short. Tony, Tony, look around. Something's lost and must be found.
I love that. I hadn't heard that before.
I don't know where I ever heard that, but that's what I do. So I start off by facing east, and I'll turn around while I'm saying that. I say it 3 times. Just
Really?
yeah,
Oh, I love that. And
yeah.
considering the fact that my dad's name was Tony, it has increased
There you go.
significance for me.
Okay, I'm glad. I'm glad I could share that with you.
That.
Okay, let me read the next one too.
Okay.
Um, Another viewer writes, I've had this experience happen to me, or rather to my cat Martha. One afternoon, she was napping on the love seat of our living room, and I was on the couch. I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and she suddenly started moving around and around in circles without getting up. I got up to see what her problem was and found a large dog's tooth had fallen from out of nowhere and landed on her as she slept. There's a central air vent above the love seat, but on the opposite side from where she was laying.
Well, that's really strange, isn't it?
Dog's tooth.
A
So I
dog's
would like to ask this person, did they have a pet who had passed? I don't know.
right.
A dog's tooth. That's a strange apport.
That is a really weird one.
Yeah.
That's very strange. Wow. Wow.
Okay, let me see if these are in the right order. Okay, I'm going to read one more.
Okay.
Uh, Recently, I woke up and there was a ring on my middle finger that I had not bought, borrowed, or had ever been gifted with. There was no explanation whatsoever. I consulted a psychic and was told that it is from my sister, who died 4.5 years prior. And she has given it to me because she appreciates that I have been a loving aunt to her children and hopes I continue in that role.
Wow. I like that. I like
Yeah,
that. That's sort of a common denominator too in a lot of these. Is that it's something that's significant to the person who receives it in some way. And
yeah.
it's like it's a mystery almost that you have to solve, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I'm so glad somebody was able to help her find the meaning for that. That makes perfect sense to me. Yeah.
It
Can you
does.
imagine waking up with a ring on your finger that you've never seen before?
That would really
That
freak
even
me.
goes beyond my stuff. Pardon?
That would freak me out.
Yeah. I
Totally.
hope it was a nice, expensive one.
Right. I agree. That's funny.
Okay. Would you like to read the next one, Linda?
Sure. Let's read that one. Okay, it says, "Hello, I'm so glad to finally know a name for the strange stuff that has happened in our home since we bought it 12 years ago. A picture of my mother-in-law painted and gave a picture my mother-in-law painted and gave to my husband for his birthday refused to stay hung on the wall no matter where we hung it. It would sound like a car wreck when it supposedly fell, but when we checked, it would look like it was gently placed in an upright position, like it slid down the wall. One evening, my husband and I were watching TV, and the lampshade on the end table between us spun around like someone had reared back and let it go like a frisbee. We always joke someone is trying to tell us something. Just recently, his car keys showed up in my purse after being gone, in quotes, for about 6 weeks. My little dog has been entertained by our visitors, and I have pictures of her enjoying their attention. Some of the people I have shared them with have freaked out." No kidding.
No kidding. I really like the one about the well, not like, but the painting falling off the wall like that and landing in an unusual position. I've had that happen with things before, and I don't know if you remember. You may my second shop, metaphysical shop that I had in Keswick, which
My
was in a
gosh. Yes.
back of a computer shop. I had a huge mirrored, mirror in a wooden frame, with kind of dividers, wooden dividers, and it must have been about, I'd say, 5 feet or so wide, and maybe 4 feet tall. It was huge, massive, with the oak wood and everything. And shortly after I moved into that shop, that mirror, I found it on the floor in the morning, but not like it had. It didn't hit anything on the way down. I had a display cabinet with spiritual, metaphysical stuff on it and everything. It didn't hit that. It ended up in the middle of the room, um, face up. And how does that happen?
Right. Exactly.
And it didn't break.
That's the weird thing too.
Hmm.
That's the weird thing too.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't broken. Thank God. Who needs 7 years of bad luck,
Can
right?
you imagine? Things used to do that in that shop. I do remember that. They would just move, they would fall off the shelves, but land in strange positions or land upright, which
Yes,
I thought was really strange.
yes,
Yeah, really weird.
yes. I had a Ouija board in a box on display the
I
first
remember
place.
that.
And that same thing happened. It had fallen off, but it landed face up. How does that happen?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, well.
Anyway, this lady who wrote about this stuff, yeah, we get it. We
Right.
really get it.
Oh my
Oh
God.
boy. Okay, let me read another one.
Okay.
Um, I have had my own Apport experiences, most of things like keys and coins disappearing for days, then reappearing elsewhere. I've mostly blamed brownies and fairies for these tricks. Yeah, that's another whole nother ball of wax there we could go into.
Okay.
My aunt, however, has had quite a few episodes. They began after her granddaughter was killed in her home by her own brother's hand in an accident, in quotes, with a handgun. We still have doubts about the accidental ruling, but that's another story altogether. The little girl who died at age 10, uh, where am I? Loved coins. She would go around the house, checking in the sofa and chair cushions for money. She always got to keep what she found, but would make little piles on the coffee table and end tables to show off her trophies. The week after she died, one morning my aunt found a stack of pennies and another of dimes, and on the table next to her on the table next to her chair. Now she never has change in her pocket to lose, and no one but my aunt ever sits in that chair, so there was no reason for there to be a stack. But we figure her granddaughter left it as a reminder that she is still around. Since then, whenever there is a trying time, my aunt will find a little reminder, 5 or 6 dimes or pennies in a pile right beside her chair.
Wow. That's a
That's
common
touching.
experience, eh? The whole coins thing is a really
Coins.
common one, really common.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when we have our public meetings, right, with the Paranormal Society, not a meeting goes by that somebody, won't mention something like that. They'll say, it's really strange. I had just finished cleaning the entire house. I vacuumed the living room,
Yes.
like everywhere. And then went to make myself a cup of tea, came back in the living room, and something was glinting in the middle of the room. I don't have a cat. I don't have a dog. I don't even have a guinea pig, and
Yes.
it happened to be like a dime or at what
Mhm.
the heck? Where did it come from? So there you go.
Yes, and the thing is with dimes, well, it used to be pennies in the old day, but really, it's really switched to dimes. They are specifically um, taken to be a sign from loved ones in spirit.
Yes.
So, or possibly angels, but usually loved ones in spirit. That's their message. I've got a whole beautiful little container of dimes that I've collected from, unusual and unexplainable places over the years. So,
Yeah.
um, anybody who's finding dimes like that, and I would definitely take that as not a ghostly gift, but a gift from spirit. Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, what a touching story.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Shall we do a few more?
Yeah, let's do a few more.
Uh, Hi, Susanna. I'm replying to the question about personal apport experiences. My best friend and I live across town from one another, and randomly, things from our rooms will disappear for a month or so and reappear in the middle of the other's bedroom floor, bedroom floor. I don't know if this classifies as an apport. It is really cool.
That's really an interesting one. I like that one. And I think it's sort of a testament to their close friendship because, there's something that happens, right? When people are really, really close, there is, they always say a meeting of the minds, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm,
who knows? I mean, could they possibly be so close as to pop in and out of each other's, etheric kind of realm or etheric field? In other words, to give each other these gifts and then not really
mhm.
know it. It just happens because they're so close. That's kinda cool.
That's very cool. That's a really good take on it. That's a
Right.
really good take on it. Yeah.
You never know.
Wow.
You just never know. It's like
Yeah.
when you say to someone, "Oh my gosh, you were just reading my mind."
Right. I was just picking up the phone to call you.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So you
That
don't
kind
know.
of thing.
Especially if you're very sensitive,
Hmm.
and you're sensitive to each other's, vibrational energy. You don't know, right?
Hmm.
Subconsciously, these things could be happening. I mean, there's no reasonable, quote unquote, explanation, but there could be, there could be an etheric explanation for it. You don't
Hmm.
know. And that's what I love about this field. There's so much that we really don't know, and it's
Hmm.
it's fascinating to even think about it.
I think that's why many people, including you and myself, are so driven to keep exploring and investigating. Not basically to find some kind of framework to put this all in.
Right, right. I
You
mean,
know that
it's
works.
true. Like, we always used to say, okay, so are we ever going to really know? Are we ever going to be able to come to terms with this and find an explanation for all of this? I need another coffee. But and honestly, we always used to say until somebody who is not of the living taps you on the shoulder and says, "Okay, so here, sit down and pull up a chair, and I'm going to tell you about the nature of reality." Until that happens, we're not going to know. It's going to be our
I
best
don't think
guess,
so.
right?
Yes. I don't, yeah, I think we probably don't have the capacity to figure this out in our human body, but doesn't mean we can't keep trying.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly, because we only use like how much of our brain capacity? We don't use
Right.
all of our brain capacity, even
No,
like a
no.
teeny weeny bit of it. So
Mhm,
imagine if we were to expand our knowledge somehow. And I mean,
mhm.
everybody tends to say and agree that when we pass, there's a consciousness, right? So does that
Right.
consciousness understand way more than we understand here, rooted in this physical plane, in this physical body, right?
I have no doubt that it does. It has to.
Yeah, agreed. I think so
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. So cool. Wow. Love it. Um, can I turn it over to you?
Sure. This is a nice long one.
Yes.
This is a fun one. Okay, here we go. I don't know if this would be considered an Apport experience or not. It happened to me many years ago as I sat with friends in a quaint basement tavern in Mystic, Connecticut at the Daniel Packard Inn. The building, which belonged originally to a sea captain, was converted into a lovely restaurant and tavern. There were artifacts commemorating the seafaring life all around the building. I happened in conversation to be describing to my friends a stairway that I had seen leading up to a man's apartment that I had previously visited. It had all kinds of antiques piled everywhere, um, including a large wooden figurehead on a landing. We were all laughing at the thought of the conglomeration. All of a sudden, I felt a sharp tap in my lap as if a piece of plaster or something of weight had dropped on my lap. Startled, I looked down to find my very lightweight earring sitting on my lap. It was a hook style earring that loops through the pierced hole and hangs down. The wire hook was long and never accidentally slipped out of my ear before. Also, the tap on my lap was too strong to have been created by a small earring. I felt that a spirit must have whipped the earring from my ear and tapped my leg to alert me that she was offended at me making fun of a ship's figurehead. The waitress later said that a female spirit inhabited the inn and often did mischievous things. Some think it is the deceased wife of the sea captain, Daniel Packard. That
That kind of gave me shivers. Yeah, that's
cool.
that. Yeah. I actually replied to that
Yes, read the reply.
reader's letter.
Awesome.
So I said, "Hi Diane. I had my keys moved from one pocket to the other while sitting at a bar and discussing a resident ghost with the proprietor of an inn, which was Sax's.
I remember that.
Yes. Not long afterward, again discussing the same ghost at the same establishment, my significant other had a roll of bathroom tissue thrown at him when he went in to use the men's room. It was quite the excitement, um, which it was. I will never forget sitting at the counter, the bar, and he had gone in to use the bathroom and he came out white as a ghost. And we said, "What happened?" As a ghost, yes. And he said that toilet paper came flying across the room all by itself. So, yes, it's very true, Diane, and everyone, that some spirits don't like to be talked about. Maybe, I mean, they're obviously hearing what you're saying. So they must be resident spirits that, kind of just hang around there. And, maybe we have to be respectful.
Respectful.
Yeah. I, yeah, thank goodness these were like nobody got hurt.
Thank goodness for that.
No, can you imagine?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
And
God.
I do remember, you telling me that experience, like, years and years ago, and then fast forward to 2017, my team and I actually spent the night in that location and did an
Oh, I remember you telling me. Yes.
we did an overnight.
Wow. So
Yeah.
what happened?
There were a
What
lot of
happened?
strange things. I mean, there was, I can't remember exactly what it was. In my head, it was like a statue of a Buddha or something on top of one of the refrigerators, and there was a camera focused on it. And when you look back, it actually turns by itself, which was fascinating. A lot of orb anomalies, a lot of strange voices on our instrumentation and our digital voice recorders as well. Just a really weird kind of strange feeling about the place too. But it's still there. It's been bought. It's now a wing place. They built a beautiful balcony where people can sit outside and enjoy dinner, and so it's actually still in business. I haven't gone in to talk to the owners yet, but I think I might make that a destination maybe.
So to people listening who are interested to know, it's in Keswick, Ontario. It's called Sax's Fish and Chips. It used to be the original name. I'm not even sure what year it was established. It was in the 50s, I believe.
Yes.
And it was a local landmark for a long, long time. and haunted by a famous ghost called Uncle Eddie. But talking about investigating the place, I had investigated once too. And I'm sure you were there too at that time. We had probably gone in together. And I found that there are transient spirits there as well.
Oh, yes. Well, it's
So,
almost at the corner as well. So again,
yes,
right? It's so busy and corners are incredibly busy. And that was also the
yes.
route that a lot of people took to the train station because the train station was at the corner of Church Street and Metro Road. So they would have
Mhm,
taken Church Street, which is where the establishment is, to get to the train
mhm.
station. So I think there's still a lot of that kind of residual energy kind of going in and out of that place.
Which would also explain, yeah, the through, coming through kind of thing, not staying there. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Oh my God, I love that place.
But you know what? It was featured, if anybody's interested, it was featured on an episode of Creepy Canada, like way back when. And you can actually find the video on YouTube.
Oh my God. Okay, let's do one more Apport story at least.
Uh,
I'll go with this one. Hi, I love your web column. Thank you very much. By the way, everybody, so these a lot of these are from syndicated column I used to write years ago called the Paranormal Insider, and I'll be bringing out an ebook soon with the whole compilation, probably 30 different editions of the different paranormal and metaphysical things I wrote about. So a lot of these are comments to specific column about Apports. So I just I love that stuff. Um, okay, so I've definitely had an Apport experience. I always felt that there was something in my parents' house. I mean, it's an old house. There's bound to be something in there. One day I came home from high school and sat in my kitchen to watch some TV. No one was home, and my cat wasn't around, must have been sleeping upstairs or outside. Anyway, I went to take out a bottle of Pepsi and sat back down at the table. The way my kitchen is set up, the head of the table is the best view of the TV. I took off the cap, poured a glass, and put the cap down more towards the back of the table where the bottle was, by the cup shelf. My back was turned to the table as I watched TV. About 5 minutes later, the bottle cap falls into my lap from the ceiling. I instantly get up, look around, say, hello, and no one was there. So I just sat back down again and continued watching. I didn't knock anything over, and the cap was on the opposite side of the table. It was very weird. I'm pretty sure I almost saw it take form late one night. As I woke my cat up, when I saw the fuzzy looking, I'm not sure what she's saying, fuzzy looking bust, one of those statues with the chest up from the 1700s, kind of hovering in my doorway. Well, the cat looked right up, ears went back, and he ran out of the room. And I freaked out and spent the night heavily breathing under the covers. Hope you enjoyed my stories, Hannah. Wow, wow, wow.
Whoa.
I can relate.
Yeah. I think a lot
Yeah.
of people who are listening to this could probably relate too.